and welcome. I'm Monica Price and you're watching Cuppa TV. On today's show, I will be joined by Kostas Petrou, a young motivational speaker who shares his incredible story of rags to riches. Also with me today is a lady that works tirelessly to support and help women surviving breast cancer. With their local-based charity, they support women across the West Midlands. Veronica Kumeta and her guest Yvonne Sinclair. My first guest today is someone who's had to endure tremendous hardship and adversity to become the man he is today. He was homeless at the age of 17 and eating just one meal a day was a blessing to him. Let's hear his story. Please welcome Kostas Petrou. Kostas, thank you so much for coming on Cuppa TV.
Thank you very much for having me.
Wonderful to see you here today.
And you too.
What a story. Where do we begin, Kostas?
Wherever you want from the beginning.
Well, I mean, you had such an adverse start to your life. Perhaps we'll start there. Tell us your story.
Yeah, my father was a British champion boxer in 1985. Now, for most children growing up with a champion father, that's naturally going to make you a little bit different, and it was no different for me. Going through high school, I was tremendously bullied for that fact that my father was a boxer, he was a champion. People naturally wanted to try and challenge me, and I was a very small and an innocent child, if you like. You know, I never really wanted to cause much trouble. I just wanted to be within my own little zone and do my thing. But I got very badly bullied. Most days it was just a struggle just to walk home because I was beaten up that bad. And that, in essence, took me away from my dream. My dream was to become a professional footballer. Really? Yeah. I worked tirelessly to try and make that happen. I would literally go onto that field for hours and hours all by myself and risk getting beaten up because they would know I'm there. And most days I was running off, trying to get away from these guys. And in essence, what happened from there was I went from having this dream of becoming a professional footballer, working so hard, getting to the level where I was playing for a very well-established youth team in the Midlands. And from that point, I found out that a couple of the bullies from school had joined the football club because naturally they were talented also. And the problem with that was they bullied me out of the team, and I ended up saying, you know, enough's enough, I can't take this anymore. I remember the moment when that happened, one of them threw me up against the wall after a football match and just said, if you don't leave the team, we're going to kill you.
Gosh, I mean, that's incredible. I mean, just that alone is just incredible. And what drove you then to continue with your goal? Well,
what happened from them was I said, I've gone through enough of this now. I think people get to a breaking point. Everyone has their breaking point, and I got to the point at that age where I just thought, I can't take this anymore. So I said, I ain't going to proceed with football as much as I love football, and it was absolutely devastating for me to walk away from my dream as a person. You know,
it's very brave of you to do that at such a young age.
It was an unbelievable thing for me to do because my father also, who was successful in the sport, had big hopes for me. And naturally, I could never tell my dad that I was being bullied. I would always hide it. He never knew anything. You know, I don't even think he had an inkling that I was being bullied because I was so well at hiding it. And the reason for that is because he wasn't just a champion boxer. He was quite hot-headed, and I was more scared of what his reaction would be if he found out. So I kept it from him. So when I walked away from football, you know, he could not believe it. The word quit does not register with him. He'd never quit in his life on anything, and he thought that his son had just quit on something, but he didn't. Because of myself, he didn't know the true extent of the story, and that led to me and him clashing tremendously, which then led to even more, you know, catastrophic events, if you like, in my life.
And is that when you left home? Is that when you chose to leave?
That's right. At that point, then I walked. You know, my dad was already going through, you know, other situations, and we was arguing quite a bit due to the fact that he had big hopes for me as a parent. He wanted the best for me, and he thought that I'd just walked away and in his mind just to do nothing, just to bounce around. He didn't realise the full extent of what happened, and it was like torture for me because my father was literally my idol, my hero. You know, naturally him being, I think most kids who have a father figure in their life would feel that way, but the fact that my dad was a champion, he was so well respected, he'd be stopped in the street and asked for his autograph, you know, seeing that as a kid, he was my hero. So having that person constantly clashing with me was just a bit too much for me to bear, and it got to the point where I said, I'm walking away now. I'm walking away from everything. I'm walking away from football. I'm walking away from my home. and I'm just going to break out and just venture into the world.
And where did you go?
Well, I was 17 years old. I was so innocent. I hadn't got a clue about life and what was around the corner. And I just remember walking around for hours. And I walked local to where my Greek granddad lived, and near the school that where I was living, where I went to school, sorry. And I walked around about 2.5 miles from where my home was at that time. And it got dark, and I saw this building, and I thought, what am I going to do? It got to the realisation set in, and it was like, where do I go from here? I've got nowhere to go. And I thought to myself, just sleep rough for a little while. It's going to be okay. You don't realise at that point that it's going to actually take a lot longer to get yourself back on your feet. And I ended up looking over my shoulder. It was starting to throw down with rain. It was dark, and I just saw this building, this abandoned, derelict building, and I thought, that's going to have to do. Where else can I go? I don't want to sleep on the street. I'd rather at least have some kind of roof over my head. But the experiences that I went through at that point, from that moment onwards, I don't think I'd wish on my worst enemy, let alone, a 17-year-old kid.
And how long did you stay homeless for? How long were you there for?
It was approximately 1 year, just over 1 year.
Kostas.
Yeah, it was a long time. I had many experiences. I saw my eyes open to the world at that point. I was surrounded by drug addicts. I was surrounded by thieves. I was even surrounded by, murderers.
And was there no contact with your family at that time?
Very, very little. Again, I kept a lot from my family. I told my family that I was staying with a friend over the way. I never wanted my family to know that actually I am going downhill. I ain't on the right track. I never wanted them to know that. I always wanted my family to feel proud of me. So I kept a lot from them. So when I would see them, it would be a case of, yeah, I'm stopping with my friend and everything's going well and I'm getting myself on track. But the fact of the matter is, nothing was on track. I had no home. I had no food most days.
Yes. What did you do for food and money? How did you cope?
The only time I'd do favours. I'd do a favour for my friend, which in essence actually led to me getting stabbed. I'd done a favour for my friend one day when he asked me to deliver an envelope for his sister's birthday, and he said, "I'll give you a £5 if you can do it for me because I'm working all day." And I said, "Sure, why not?" And on the way there, I was walking through an alleyway, and whilst walking through that alleyway, I was attacked by 3 guys, and one of them stabbed me, and he stabbed me in the arm. And as I turned around towards him, he came in directly towards my chest with a knife. He was trying to kill me in that moment, all for an envelope.
What was going through your mind at that time? You must have been just so scared.
I say this in a lot of my motivational talks. 2 thoughts come to my mind in that moment, which I've actually learnt to apply to any challenge in my life. And them 2 thoughts in that moment were, how much do I want to survive? And what do I need to do to survive? And how I apply that to my life now is, when I'm approached with a challenge, how much do I want to actually overcome this challenge? And what do I need to do to overcome this challenge? And them 2 questions taught me a lot. They helped me through. But it was after being stabbed. The most amazing thing happened to me after being stabbed the first time. I had 2 amazing experiences, both after being stabbed, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah. The first time I was walking back, I was so visibly shook up. I was looking around everywhere because I didn't know if these guys were going to jump out on me again. And as I was looking around, I caught a glimpse of a brick wall, which was filled with graffiti. And it's unbelievable that this message was just on this brick wall, but it just seemed to really strike home with me. And it's simple. And I say this again in my talks when I'm speaking to groups of youngsters or anyone really. It doesn't matter what's happened to you. What matters is, what are you going to do about it? And that's what I learned to take on board.
That's what you do now. And what inspired you at that time to just, get out of the situation you were in, Kostas? How long were you homeless for? Just
over 1 year.
Yeah.
And I think what inspired me was, I never, ever, ever had the thought in my mind that this was going to be permanent. See, the thing is, I had a vision, and every now and then when I felt down, I'd step out of this vision. I'd step into this vision and say, this is where I'm going to be, this isn't forever. But what really, really changed my life was when I was stabbed for the 2nd time, and I was stabbed in my head here. And after having stitches, I went back to this abandoned building where I was staying, and I was living on this sleeping on this torn to shreds mattress. It was just ripped to shreds. And I got there and I sat on this mattress and I just collapsed backwards. And I remember putting my hands over my face and it felt like I was going in slow motion. And as I removed my hands from my face, I don't know what this experience was, but I was outside it felt like a black cloud that I was sucked into. I needed to be uncomfortable, so I had the need big enough to change, and that's why I bought these books. I kept myself on the tips of my toes, I kept myself on edge, and I read and I read and I read, and I educated myself, and from that point, I was able to just climb and climb slowly up the ladder to become the #1 person ever.
Yes, you became the #1 salesman for your company.
That's right.
Yes.
And from that position, I met my fiancée, who I'm getting married to in June.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, and
congratulations.
thank you very much. And it's going to be a big fat Greek wedding.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, the only way to have one, absolutely.
That's right, yeah. And
fantastic.
believe in yourself enough.
That's amazing. Well, it's just been an absolute pleasure to meet you, Kostas.
Thank you
so
very much.
And I wish you every success for your wedding.
Bless you, thank
Sounds
you very
wonderful.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Now, the number of women in the UK being diagnosed with breast cancer is increasing. However, the survival rate is improving. Still though, every year, nearly 55,000 women are diagnosed in the UK. That's the equivalent of 150 people every day, or one person every 10 minutes. Staggering statistics. I'm joined today by Veronica Kumeta, a lady who spends her life trying to help those women with support, practical advice and help when it's needed with her charity Ladies Fighting Breast Cancer. We're also joined as well with cancer survivor Yvonne Sinclair. Welcome to you both. Thank you so much for coming on Cuppa TV. So I'm going to start with you, Veronica. How did the charity start?
The charity was started by myself and the late Sue McMasters when our friend Carol Naggs was diagnosed with breast cancer in June 2000.
And from there, was it something you always wanted to do?
No, what happened was when Carol was diagnosed, we really didn't know what to do, and we wanted just to offer her some support. So we took ourselves down to see her doctor at the QE hospital and was asking him questions and how could we help and how could we support Carol. And the doctor asked me what would I feel if I was diagnosed with breast cancer, what would really upset me. And I immediately said losing my hair, and then apologised as soon as I said it, because I said, I'm sorry, that sounds very vain. And he said, to some women, that's really, really important. So I asked the question, is there anything that I could possibly buy that would stop this from happening? And he said, yes, you could buy me a £5,000 cooling cap. So I walked out of the hospital thinking, OK, I'm now going to have to raise £5,000 to buy a cooling cap.
And that's how it began.
And that's how it began.
I mean, it's staggering statistics, isn't it? I mean, you know, 150, what do I say? You know, it's just staggering statistics. Why do you think the survival rate, though, is improving?
I think because of diagnosis, we're getting better at diagnosing women. Hopefully, it's education. This is what the charity's all about, is to go out there and educate people that early detection saves lives. And that's what we're very passionate about, is getting women to start checking themselves on a regular basis.
And Yvonne, you've joined us today. You are a cancer survivor from breast cancer, of course. Tell us your story, Yvonne.
I was diagnosed in September 2013. It was just a routine mammogram I went for, and on my holiday came back, a letter, and went back, and I just didn't realise how serious it actually was. And I ended up having a double mastectomy in the October. And hopefully everything's all clear. I'm just on like tablets now for 5 years.
And then
I had chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and as I say, I was very fortunate that I'm sort of like still looking very well, or maybe better than I did.
Marvellous.
Better than I did before, actually.
That's marvellous. Do you feel? How did you get involved with Ladies Fighting Breast Cancer?
They had a stand in the atrium at the QE actually, and I just sort of walked up and asked if they were advertising for volunteers, and Veronica was amazed that I just walked up, and it went from there, and that was probably last June or July, something like that.
So kind of meant to be, really, that you found each other. Did you feel you needed support, Yvonne?
I think it's nice to get involved with other people who've had breast cancer as well, because when you go for chemotherapy and everything, it's a bit sort of daunting because you don't know what's going to happen with the radiotherapy, because you're just on your own in a sense. And it's just nice to get involved with other people who have had breast cancer or are looking to try and help people, and to make people more aware as well, you see, sort of thing. I just wanted to be there to help other people.
And it's something as well that affects men, isn't it? Veronica?
Yeah,
So,
not as much as women,
No.
obviously. I think in
is
the
it
QE...
quite rare?
Yeah, I think in the QE hospital, it's possibly 2 to 3 a month that they see. Obviously, with women, it's much more.
Yeah, I was looking at the
prevalent.
statistics for men. You know, it's 400 men are diagnosed every year.
Every year, yeah.
You know, and again, but I don't think men realise that they can
I didn't
have
realise
breast cancer.
Yeah, I didn't realise myself when I went with my
yeah.
friend Carol. I didn't
Yes.
even think men could get breast
Yes.
cancer, and we found that out when we went to see
so
the
again,
oncologist.
do you think there's enough? I mean, cancer is one of those awful diseases that one of us or one of our friends will surely know somebody who's been affected by it. Do you think there's still more to be done?
Very much so. I mean, I would like to get into schools at sixth form level and start telling the girls that they should, you know, if there's any history in the family especially, to really start looking after themselves. And I think it is all about awareness. But again, we're only a small voluntary charity. We're desperate for volunteers and we keep the money in the community. We're the only regional breast cancer charity in the UK. And I was very passionate about raising funds in the Midlands that stays in the Midlands.
So all the money that's donated stays in the West Midlands?
Yeah, we're all volunteers. That was another criteria of mine, that we're all volunteers and all the money stays in the Midlands to help the women of the Midlands.
So you work with the QE, Veronica, is that right?
Yeah, the reason we started with the QE is because my friend was being treated there, so it's the obvious place to start from. And because it covers a 70-mile radius of the Midlands, we've put over £1 million worth of equipment into the hospital, complementing the NHS. And unbeknown to me at the time, that has meant, talking to the staff there, that they've attracted the best doctors and the best nurses because they've got the best equipment. So people come from other hospitals to use this equipment because it's the only hospital that has it in the region.
Is that important? I mean, when you were having your treatment, Yvonne, was that important, do you think? Yes.
I mean, I didn't know at the time, but I do that the chairs that Ladies Fighting Breast Cancer that we use when you have chemotherapy were sort of like partly contributed through that.
And tell us about those. What's
They're
so
very
different?
nice. They're nice. Well, pinky chairs. Yes,
Pink is good.
Of course. Very comfy
Very
and
pink
everything.
today.
That's it. Yeah, very comfortable.
And does that really make a difference to your treatment?
It's some people are there for a long time, so you need to be comfy if you're sitting and everything and that, you see. So I mean, I was only there for probably an hour and a half, but as I say, it makes all the difference if you.
And when you're now working with the charity, Veronica, how do you see the charity moving forward?
Well, for 13 years, we just raised equipment for the QE, and then the doctor retired. And I never used to go to the QE, and what I would say is I never used to go to the QE because I thought I was, one, taking up his precious time that was helping people. And when he retired, I went to speak to the QEHB charities because there's 2 trusts at that hospital. And since we've married up with the QEHB on a £1 million appeal, they have now allowed us to go into the atrium. We're seeing patients, which we never had access to before. And so for the charity to move forward, we also want to get into communities because there's certain communities, unfortunately, that don't take up their mammogram appointments. So if we can engage with people from their own communities to talk on our behalf and come in with the charity, we will guide them. And then hopefully, you know, like Ab said before, early detection saves lives. So it's educating people that there is equipment out there for them to go and use, and hopefully we can.
Why do you think that people don't take up the mammogram?
It can be cultural.
Is it cultural? And what do you think?
I think they're probably scared.
Yeah.
Scared of
what it might be.
Scared of what they might say to them.
So it's that fear, maybe.
Yeah.
So your charities are hoping to sort of change that?
We're hoping to. Like I say, if we can get out to different areas of Birmingham and do what we would class as satellite units under our Ladies Fighting Breast Cancer banner, if you like, and then let the communities themselves talk to their people and explain the necessity of going and getting these mammograms, or just going to your doctor. If the earliest concern you've got, just go to your doctor because it does make a massive difference.
So, you would say that early detection makes all the
without
difference.
question.
Yes.
Without question. Yeah.
So tell me, Yvonne, what's your role now in the charity?
Volunteer coordinator.
Fantastic. And what would that do?
Well, it's trying to recruit people to come and stand like we do at the Bull Ring, in the atrium, packing shopping bags at Sainsbury's.
Yeah.
Any place you need to start.
And do you feel that's something you really want to do now, Yvonne?
It is, because I mean, from my point of view, I feel like I'm giving something back then by helping out. And then if I can talk to people, which people like to have a little chat and just to reassure them that there is sort of like life after these things anyway.
I think it's. Do you think it helps when you talk to other people who are going through the same, similar situation as you? Did that help you, Yvonne?
I think yes, it's best to talk because, as I say, you feel quite a bit on your own.
Exactly.
And it's nice to talk to people who have been through it as well.
Oh, that's great.
And share sort of experiences.
Well, it's been wonderful. Thank you so much, Veronica, and for you, Yvonne. Thank you for coming and sharing your stories today. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'd like to thank all of my guests joining me today on Cuppa TV. And if you would like to get in touch with us, you can join us on Facebook or Twitter at Big Centre TV, or email the show. Thank you so much for watching. Come back and join us tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Well, it's about having this thing inside of you that just says, I'm never going to quit on myself, because if I quit on myself, who else is there going to be to help me? I've got to first depend on me before anyone else can depend on me to be anywhere.
And what sort of groups do you speak to? Is it young children or is it adults? Who do you speak to?
Yeah, I speak to colleges. South and City Birmingham College is one that I work with very closely. I work with football clubs. I've done a speech just before Christmas for a football club.
So that brings in your football, your love of
football.
Yeah. Yes, that's it.
And I'm also trying to potentially break into the boxing remit as well, maybe get talking to some boxers, maybe be in a changing room before a fight and get them really pumped up and give them that edge.
And what's the relationship like with your father now, Kostas?
Absolutely fantastic.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Because you see, the thing is, my father was never to blame for my situation. I take full responsibility for that, because my father never knew the situation. And in actual fact, when he found out the true extent just recently of what I actually went through,